Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio with Nancy and Lisa. It is Trust Talk Thursday, and this is a show that we do every third Thursday with Lea Brovedani, who is known as the Trust Architect. Lea is a speaker, a workshop facilitator on trust, and she is recognized as a top thought leader on trust by the organization Trust Across America. She's also the author. She's got a long bio, okay? She is the trust leader, seriously. Trust Me, Restore Belief and Confidence in an Uncertain World. And she's the author of Trusted, Secret Lessons from an Inspired Leader. And you can go to her website, thetrustarchitect.biz. You can also listen to her past interviews and read articles if you go to blendradioandtv.com. Her stories and interviews also appear in our various Big Blend magazines. So welcome back, Lea. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in Savannah, and it's humid and hot and absolutely lovely, and put on a few pounds because there's some really good food here.
Yeah. Oh, I know. The South is awesome. I mean, really, in Savannah, you've got that Spanish moss, you've got Forsyth Park, which I think is one of the best community parks in this country. It's beautiful.
Okay, I've got to check that out. I haven't been here long enough.
Oh, you got to go to Forsyth Park. It's got a lot of history. There's interesting gardens that are planted that you can learn about, and beautiful fountains, you know, walking like cobblestone pavement. Like, it's just,
It's lovely.
It is. I've got the yayas still.
She got the yaya?
I got the yayas. I just recently met up with my high school friend. You know, we were talking about school, that last interview.
Right.
And it is confirmed that her and I were complete brats in high school.
Oh, I can attest.
That's so shocking.
I know.
That's so shocking.
I can attest.
And now I've been taking on her accent because she's British and South African. So the whole weekend was spent going, you just said that, and you just said that. So now I don't know who I am anymore, but everything is massive, bloody hell. And hey, as well. There you go. So there's my lingo, but apparently we were brats. And she sat talking about how she moved her kids to school in England. And she was saying that we were brats because we were bored and we wanted to get out and get to work. And it's really true. So it was interesting going back those 30 years. And I was telling her about our conversation. She says, yeah, we were totally bored. And that's when trouble ensues. And so that's interesting.
Well, there is a difference between teaching and babysitting. And I'm not going to say that about countries now, but I will say it about countries 20-something years ago, when in South Africa, it was more like having babysitters than teachers.
And we decided on the same teachers too.
Yes.
That we mentioned. I said, you know, Lea asked me, you know, was there a teacher that, you know, really impacted your life? And it was the only quiet moment I've ever had.
The only teachers that were really on it were the math teachers from India.
That's not true.
Yes.
No, Mr. Molyneux and then the history teacher.
No, sorry, not. They just flirted a lot.
Well, no, I took their class and he did teach me English, but anyway, so just going back to that, and now today we're going to talk about remote working and building trust in a remote workforce. And I think this is a huge topic, very important, because it's really happening across the country, whether or not you are a permanent, you know, employee within an organization, but there's also remote workers that are contractors that come in and go. And I think no matter what, Lea, don't you think that trust has to be there, whether or not you're like a virtual assistant stepping in to help, or maybe even a bookkeeper or someone like that comes in? Do the same rules apply in trust, in building trust?
Yeah, and you know when I'm talking to people, and especially leaders and managers that are managing a remote workplace, they said that there's some advantages to it, because from the employee standpoint, you know, when you have young kids and it's taking 30% of your income to have someone take care of it, care of it, children, your children.
Are we back to babysitting again?
When you're having someone take care of them, not it.
There you go.
That, like a 30% increase in pay is huge if you're not having to pay that out. But then it's also managing to work full time, plus take care of your children, plus do all of the housework. And from a personal perspective, sometimes it's really nice to get away from your kids.
Well, projects seem to work. Like I would give Lisa projects to do. So, and the thing about creating a project for a child to do, it has to be at their age level, not yours, and give them something that they would like to do that will keep them busy for the hour that you need or whatever. But you got to come up with oh, no.
While you're on a Zoom call.
No.
Give the kids a set of drums.
No, unless you have a soundproof room somewhere. You need quiet projects.
Absolutely.
It's like everyone's doing homework at the same time.
And not outside where you can't see what's going on, because that's a disaster. So just quiet projects that are stimulation for the mind.
Yeah.
That will keep them busy.
And there are some companies that during this whole time that, during COVID and virtual workplaces have put software that monitors the employee's productivity. So it shows how many hours they're on the computer, what's going on, eye contact, if they're going off to sites. And for anyone who's listening, that is not trust. That is the opposite of trust.
I was going to say with this, like if from the leadership perspective, it's almost like it, when you clock into work, you do your little clock thing, you go in, it's different because there's personal camaraderie. There's individuals there. There is the water cooler moments that kind of build teamwork. Or if the leader sucks, everyone's going to go against him. It's like watching Survivor. We're going to take him out. But when it's remote, some of the statistics I read they were saying that short term is good, and they do need the break, like you were talking about. And what we're seeing as we travel, as people know, we pet sit across the country. So we're seeing all these different things. A lot of people who have worked at home for 2 years with their pets, and then we're here going, yep, well, we'll be here and taking care of your pets while we do podcasts, so everyone gets to meet the dogs. But but it's now people are going back in kind of on a part-time thing, and it seems to be that's the norm, and it works better. But going back to a leadership role, it seems that leaders have had to stop with the control, like the micro-controlling, micromanagement, and look at more about give freedom and turn over responsibility as like almost a promise, like you are going to commit to doing this project and going more on results based than counting the hours.
And there's a few things that you can look at from a leadership perspective if you're managing a remote workplace is check in with people. And the first thing you ask should always be around their well-being. How are they handling being on their own? What are some of the challenges they've got? Because the same things apply. A good leader connects with his staff. And so it's not just around getting the work done. If you want the best out of your people, then make sure that you have a connection with them. So that should be part of what you do, is check in with them on a regular basis. Not just about the work, not just about what if the goal is getting done, but give them goals and targets and all of that should be part of it. But also with this isolation, if this is your way of connecting, then make sure that you are connecting, because those hallway conversations aren't happening anymore. And that's something that people miss. People miss the connection.
And this goes with your 5 tenets of trust, right? Yeah. So communication, commitment, consistency, wait, I'm missing one. What's the fifth one? Competence.
Commitment. Yeah, and the caring is the big one of it.
Apparently I wasn't good at the competence one there, but the communication, going back to that, it's important because as a leader too, is to check in and say, hey, how are you doing? How are the kids? And if, the employee or the contractor says, actually, my kid has COVID, so we've been battling, it's up to the leader going, oh, you know what? Why don't you take some time off here and come back to it here? So it negates an employee stressing
Yeah.
and actually being able to produce at a better, and doesn't that build trust if a leader knows those personal details?
Yes, absolutely.
sure.
And one of the things that when I was talking to one of the leaders that I had done some training for her team, she said what people are missing. And when I talked to employees and employers, and I asked if you had the choice between going back to work or staying as a virtual, like in the virtual workplace world, what would you choose? And the employees at a junior level overall picked staying virtually because of the things that I had mentioned. They're saving money on childcare costs.
Sure.
They're able to get work. They're able to kind of negotiate when they can work, as long as the work is getting done. But the leader that I spoke to said that one of the things that they're missing is that a lot of the interaction, if people want to advance, happen in the hallway. So you're not passing your boss who has a conversation and asks how you're doing and what project are you working on. And then they're saying, well, that's a good person to keep in mind when I need to promote to the next level. When you miss those kind of conversations, then you have to find another way. If you want to move up in the organization, working virtually, it's a lot harder to do it.
Yeah,
So
I see that.
So what I suggest is, if possible, and we're now getting a little bit, it's easier to go back to work, is having a hybrid workplace. Because I don't think anybody wants to go back to an office 24/7, like 7 days a week.
No.
But maybe, a couple of days during the week,
Yeah.
you just go in for a meeting, but an extended one, so you get more done and more chance to bump into the people that you want. Some kind of meeting where you have a break, maybe a lunch break, so
Yes,
people can talk.
Yeah.
That takes care of that.
Yeah.
And it gives you a chance to get away from the kids.
Yeah, kind of a retreat. It's kind of like how
Yeah.
boards have those retreats where they brainstorm, look at what has been done, I have a friend who has recently ended up with a dream job, and it was a lot of hard work. And she had gotten to a place in her career in one company, and she's in development and business development. And she got to the top, and she was watching everybody make more money than her. So there was that whole female thing, and nobody was working. And throughout her careers, and I mean careers internationally, and she really made me think of how she has developed where she is today. She maintained her network of people no matter where she lived and where she worked. She maintained this network and stayed in communication. I don't care if it was in the boonies somewhere over a real estate project. I don't care. She has maintained this. And if chips were down, she went, who do I have in my network that I can go to and make a change with? And she's in her dream job now, making what she deserves and developing further and eyeing even somewhere bigger. And the company she's with now encourages people to live where they want or be where they want, because they're a global community or company moving, expanding. So they're like, you go live wherever you want. Let's check it out. And I think that's a very interesting thing, but there is a lot of communication. And so she says she lives on Zoom a little bit too much, but it was about, while we are playing Zoom and everything, remember all those email correspondence, chats, LinkedIn messages really do add up to, even if it's a like on someone's post, putting yourself back into that conversation. So I think that's kind of a way of what, the company owner the leader you were talking about, he's right, but I think there is a way to still do it virtually.
Yeah, I think so too. But, you have to be conscious of it. And if you're not conscious that you have to do that, then I think it causes a problem.
Yeah, she's very conscious apparently, because like she's kicking some butt. I'm like, I wouldn't get in her way.
Mhm.
She's like, she's a steamroller, but in a good way. But I think it's something you do what you have and use it. But it is about that communication. It's not like, oh,
Yeah.
I've just met this person, let me go and get something from them. It is developing relationships. And I
Yeah.
think that's where it go, and being consistent. See, consistent
Caring,
communication.
commitment, consistency, competence, and communication. Yep.
Yeah, but, you have to trust your employees, and if you don't, you need to move on to someone that you can trust.
Yes.
Yeah, you really do, because it really can get nasty, if you're fighting all the time or having to babysit. I know I sent Lisa out with a very young employee because I was in two minds about whether I could trust this employee or not. And Lisa was younger than her, and she wasn't really part of the workforce. I just sent her out so that she could come back and tell me. And it turned out that the girl really wasn't capable, and she had to go. But it, to me, like if you have a remote worker, it's the same as when you have workers in the field.
Right.
They don't
Yeah, and
know
I
what they're
remember
doing.
this is years and years ago where we were talking about hiring, and I was in human resources for a number of years. And so we talked about when you're hiring people, do you hire on skill or will? And so, a lot of times you're looking and people will talk about all of the past experience they have in their education.
Mhm.
And if you have somebody, and if you're trying to choose between candidates, if they have the skill, but they don't have the will, they're not going to be a great employee.
Right.
Right.
But if they have the will,
Mhm.
and there's some training that needs to happen,
Mm.
you're better off hiring someone who has the will and the desire
Absolutely.
and training them. So if this girl, it sounds like she didn't have the competence, but she didn't have the will to learn too, because
No,
she probably would have stepped up and said, listen, I know I don't have this, but I'll learn.
No,
Right.
she didn't have a work ethic at all, as I
Right.
recall.
I know a lot of people that say that they will hire someone who's never set foot in their industry if they have that will that you're
Yeah.
talking about, that are open-minded, and they go, then they can teach them freshly what they need in their company versus
Right.
correcting bad habits from somebody in the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
And changing their
Mhm.
mind and having to go through, like, this is how we do things here. Come in with a fresh slate. Let's get to it. And they're also somebody who hasn't been like necessarily in that field, they come in with a fresh pair of eyes. And I think companies, we get so used to this is how we do things, and
Mm.
that is out the window these days. I mean, the world
Oh.
is changing on a daily basis, and there's some
Mhm.
things like your 5 tenets of trust. Those are things that you can say, okay, you can lean back in them and know that kind of thing. Those are things that do not change. Those are values, those are principles.
Right.
But the way we do things remote, suddenly, oh, now we're going to have a robot taking messages for us. Well, we already do, right? So I mean, it's there's all these things now, and we have to, as people, step up as AI comes in. We have to, I think, people are so scared of AI and how AI is taking jobs away. No, AI is actually pushing us to do things other than coughing up in a coal mine, and I'm not knocking coal miners. They did amazing work over the years, but it's a time now that, hey, you don't have to do that physical labor. You don't have to sit there and hurt your lungs. You can move on to something cleaner and better, not into, did I just enter the energy war? I didn't mean to, but it's just an example that, no, you don't need to be bagging groceries. We can learn to do something beyond. I'm not knocking anybody in those positions. I'm just saying we're destined for better things.
Yeah.
We really
And
are.
virtually, I think when we look at especially the virtual world, then you're looking at computers. And so with everything that we do virtually, pretty soon, I would think a lot of the jobs will be done virtually.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we really need to be able to balance how we can stay connected so that there's, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but if I go to a restaurant, a lot of times I'll watch people And I see that instead of having a conversation with each other, I've seen families that are sitting around and everybody is on either an iPad or their phone.
It's
And the
crazy.
art of communication is being lost. And if we're
Mhm.
going to stay connected in this world, and if we're going to be able to manage people, you still need to have those people skills.
Right.
It
Right.
would
Exactly.
be cool if your phone wouldn't allow you to use it within 2 feet of another person.
Yeah. Right. Or if it stops you from walking into a street lamp while you're walking with the phone. And
We
I
have
mean, I
seen
watch
that.
people walk behind moving cars, like in a parking lot.
Yeah,
You go get your
looking like
groceries
this.
and someone's walking right, but you're, reversing and they're just,
crazy.
they don't even see you, or they'll cross the street with their phone in their face. It's that
Yeah.
I could do a whole show on it. It's
Mhm.
insane. But you're really right about that. And so like when I'm saying we're progressing as a society into different roles, I'm not saying get rid of the service industry, because if even the checkout thing, it's kind of like you kind of miss the person saying, hey, did you find what you wanted? And even when you're doing self checkout, there's still someone there, because you can't negate it completely. You can't just always have automated check-ins, in
Mm.
hotels. You want to have that personal connection, because hospitality is hospitality. That will not go
Yeah.
away. And we've talked about that a lot on the shows with you, but it is that balance. And I think companies with remote workers are going to get to this point of having retreats. I know the hotel industry and conferences and all of that went, during the crash in 2008, that kind of went out. September 11th kind of put a boom on these expos, and COVID's done the same thing. But I think it's going to come back in a different form, where it's going to be these smaller gatherings of the employees that have met each other on Zoom and have never met in person. And then they go to an event and it's going to be high octane. Everybody's on high adrenaline. They go back home and they're refreshed, but you don't have that
Mhm.
daily grind of having to see everyone every single second in the workplace.
Yeah.
So I think it could have that balance, which would be
Oh,
nice.
there goes the office romance right out
Oh
the
no,
window.
it can happen, and then no one will know, because you meet at you have the kindling. You may be doing it. I mean, how many people are like sending each other naughty messages, and then they meet at the event,
Yeah,
the
but
work
that's
event, and then
dangerous.
no one has to know what happens later.
No, but that's
Did we
dangerous.
just go out of the trust zone, Lee?
Yeah,
I
right.
think so. I think so. But it's, kind of interesting. So we went from
Yeah.
personal relationships to catfishing to how to hook up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. See?
Hey, I love our conversations. You never know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
so,
but
I
it is,
mean-
but it's interesting, because trust is like it's a huge deal. I mean, really,
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's a huge deal, and we're in this world where I think we are all clamoring for it.
Yeah.
We're doing that. So when a question for you about a leader in HR, like you were talking about, and someone in human resources now, how is that in hiring people now working remotely? So it's like doing Zoom interviews, right? And tests and presentations. Like my friend
Yeah.
said, she had to do this. It was an international thing. She had to do a presentation, like a point, you better know how to use, PowerPoint and
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm going,
Mhm.
I couldn't do that, but it's like, do this whole thing. It's stress levels. Like they test you, they do this intense, like an interview through Zoom is almost harder than going into the office and meeting people.
My husband is a VP of sales for an international company, and he hired a person to work in a very senior role, and everything was done on Zoom and like just through the internet. And so like he has a whole team that he's never met personally. And so that whole virtual workforce, and if when I've talked to him, he misses meeting people, because you do get a sense of people, but there's something about, like we've never met personally. I feel like I
Right.
know you
And
really
we want
well.
to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But when we meet, we're going to have cocktails and it'll be off the
That's
hook.
right.
And that will not be recorded.
No. And there, and just being able to go up to someone and have that conversation and, like, this is
There's
my
an
old
energy.
self coming in, but feel the energy of a person.
That
Because
energy,
I feel
yeah.
like I do know you and Nancy really, like Nancy and
Yeah,
Lisa,
yeah.
like we're friends.
Yeah.
And when we see each other, hopefully we'll recognize each other.
It's going to
but
be a homecoming.
Yeah, we're
You
so
know.
much better looking in person, but
This
yeah.
is, you
Oh,
know,
hell
but this
yeah.
is like, this
We
is
don't
like,
have
on,
Zoom touch up.
no, this is like online dating, you know?
Yeah, but it is true. I mean, it's a weird thing, you know, but it's the
It
same
is
musicians feel the
odd.
same way. You know, it's like
Mm.
they've been doing all these live, you know, things, and people can send stuff on Facebook. Oh, I love this song, blah blah, which is great, and it got
Mhm.
people through and opened up their marketing, you know, their marketing of their music internationally, because anybody could watch their shows. So that is a really
Right.
cool thing. But being in that connection with the audience is
It's not
it's a
there.
fuel. We
Yeah.
feed
Mhm.
off it as human
It's
beings.
the,
That
it's the
it's
energy.
it's part of who we
Yeah.
are as an animal species. Uh-oh, Darwin's coming to get me.
No,
Well,
I think
we
you'd
do
agree.
need to have that connection. Like I've done training virtually, and it's hard. Like I feel so, inspired and in awe of teachers who taught every day for 2 years, and kids. Like I can't sit through 7 hours or 5 hours or 4 hours of training, and yet we expected kids as young as 6 years old to sit in front of a computer for a full day and learn. So this
Yeah.
whole virtual workplace and virtual education, I don't think that I unless we make some huge improvements in it, I don't think we're ever going to be able to get away from, and I hope we don't get away from, the fact that we need to meet personally. So managing a virtual workplace,
Mhm.
I think there needs to be still that interaction.
Sure,
Right.
because we can meet virtually, but if you're talking employer employees, then you're only going to really trust once you really meet.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, to really, really trust. How do you trust someone you've never ever met? I mean, that's
Well, actually, I
really
do
hard.
trust you, and but
Oh, but you
even as
don't
you're saying that, I'm
know.
thinking I do trust the two of you.
Yeah, we
Like
trust
I
you.
would feel really comfortable
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
here's the keys to my house, and not thinking twice about it. So we're to that level of
We'll,
trust.
we'll lend you our keys to the car.
Okay. Is it working?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. I just thought I should check.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
good
she's
idea.
good. She's a
See?
good girl. Yep. Uh-huh.
She works.
No, but
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's what we travel. I mean, full time. So that's why I say that. For those who don't remember, Nancy and I travel full time. So that's why I say the keys to the car. So because our house is a storage unit. So
Yeah, we
Wow.
can't
you can call our
really,
storage unit.
no,
So
but
where
you can't
are you
really
right now?
give, yeah, but you can't really give the keys to somebody else's house to you.
Right. We're in
That would
Madison,
be good.
Wisconsin right now.
Okay. And
Back with the collies.
where are you in September?
In September, we will be on a farm in North Carolina. We're going to be in a farm for 2 months in one place. Oh my gosh, everybody stop. It's like, stop the
Yeah.
insanity. But we will be near you, because when this airs, I believe we'll be running the bed and breakfast in Asheville.
Oh, cool.
Again,
So you're
the Lion and the Rose.
breakfast again.
Yes,
Mhm.
Nancy's cooking breakfast, and
We
I'll be nice to people and, you know, making sure the inn is all, you know. So, yep, and taking care of their little doggies, Ozzy and Oreo, and yep.
Nice.
I think
Mhm.
that's the same. Yeah, I think so. But we'll be going to Arkansas, then to Asheville, North Carolina. And they talk about trust. They trusted us to run their inn last year,
Mhm.
and now they're trusting us again. And so,
Well, so
Trusted-
obviously they got good feedback.
yeah,
They trusted me to
apparently.
cook. I'm
That's
like,
a huge
whoa.
deal. That's
Whoa.
huge. They trusted me to pour beer for their guests. Now that is huge.
Well,
I didn't
think
run away with the
we-
keg.
No, see, I think that they look at what our natural talents are, and then, you know, so it's the will, it's the, you know,
Yeah, it
skill
was
and will.
totally
I
the
think
will.
that came together.
That is
Mhm.
totally the will. So we're not going to
Yeah.
be far from you. So maybe we'll see you on the way or something like that. We'll
That'd
see
be
what we can
great.
do.
Or, you know, we'll just connect, and you'll say, here's where I am. I'm going to be in Asheville. Is it South Carolina? Asheville?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm going to be in Asheville in a couple of weeks to take a course.
Mhm.
See, look
cool.
at this. So then
Mm.
we meet, and then we
So-
can report back on our next radio interview and say, dude, we all trust each other when we met, like
That's
in
great.
person.
Yeah.
You
We'll
know,
do a follow-up.
I want to say something about remote working. As I'm thinking back to when I had, I think I had 1 point 15 employees. And I think 90% of my work time was not about working. It was managing or putting out fires between employees and their relationships with each other. So the idea of remote employees sounds awesome to me. Just awesome, because really there was so much drama in between the employees that it drove me crazy.
So if people aren't interacting on a regular basis, are they still having issues, or is that kind of eliminated? But I think that if you are, if employees are working together and they have to share projects, you have drama, but I'm wondering how it changes. Is it the same drama?
I don't think it would be, because, okay, so you're emailing something, but you're not in this personal space of each other.
Yeah, because you can
And,
swear at
like,
someone and they can't hear you.
Yeah, and the
Seriously, I'm being
sarcastic,
straight. Come on,
but
how many
no,
people?
it's true.
We all have
Sarcastic
those, right?
remarks to another employee when
You
one
can
is
blow your
walking down
steam
the
off.
hall, and all that stuff that goes on.
You can
Yeah,
blow your steam off in a private, personal place, and that
Exactly.
way, it's like if you're,
Yeah.
husband and wife has an argument. The guy takes a walk around the block. Let him take a walk around the block. Everybody needs a distance.
Just lock the
and
door so he can't
to
get back
get
in.
your brain back on. But I mean, because it's true. It's like, okay, if you think about the workforce in general, right?
Mhm.
In this country, and we see this everywhere, driving, okay, we've got this nice house in the countryside, suburbia. So our kids are in schools that are a little bit safer, we all hope. And so then parents are now commuting 1 to 2 to 3 hours a day
Yeah.
to go to work in the city. So by the time you're getting up at God knows 4 in the morning,
Mhm.
you're
yeah,
trying to like maybe get a jog in. You have dogs, you have kids, you want to say hi to your kids and spend time with them. Then you're on the road. By the time you get to work, you've already
You're
done a bunch of
tired.
battles. You're
Yeah.
already fighting the
Yeah.
road and idiots who
It's
have
true.
not remembered how to drive since COVID. And then you get to work,
Well,
and here it all comes again. You get out of work, and by the time you get home, everyone's having dinner. You
mhm.
barely see your kids. You barely walk the dog. You have a cocktail, and it starts all over again. That's not healthy, really. And so when
Mm-mm.
COVID happened, everybody went, oh my God, I have a house, I have a garden that needs help. I get to actually have a conversation with my kids, and it may be rough at the beginning. So there's all these things of balance. And so I think people, by the time they're at work, they're already pissed. They're already in a mode.
Well,
And
they're already
it's like,
exhausted.
you know what? So you're tired. And so we're not working in a level of high confidence, even if you can do it and you can maintain the fake confidence. Oh, I can get up and keep doing this, and they keep
Yeah.
doing it. It's actually a fake hamster wheel. And so this balance, I think the remote thing can really work if people
Mhm.
if the company says, hey, we're going to have a company picnic, all come here,
Mhm.
it's like, we'll pay for your way. It's actually cheaper in a way to have that. The hotels make
Mhm.
money, so it's tourism. I
yes,
think it's cool.
Yeah, I think, the thing is, do you have the self-discipline to do the job that you've been given by the deadline, to do it right, to do it to your best of your ability, not to fake it through, without somebody cracking the whip over your head? Are you
yes.
You need
mature
that.
enough
You
It's a
to
need
big
do?
reset, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is.
because I mean, okay, let me go play in the garden and I'll work tonight,
Really?
but now I'm been playing in the garden. I'm too tired now, so I didn't do
Yeah, I
the
don't
job.
understand that. I
You
don't
know,
understand that at all. I
so
don't get, like, if I don't know, maybe I'm just,
well,
you
that's
shouldn't
because
be in
we've
that
always
job
worked,
then.
because you've worked in your own company, where if you don't do your job, you don't get money. See, that's how that works.
But it's the same thing if
But
you're
it,
working for somebody else.
no, not
No,
usually. You
it's
can
not the
skate
same.
along.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
see it
not the
as the
same.
same thing either, Nancy.
People,
Really?
yeah, people skate along until the boss goes, okay, I really do have to take the steps to fire somebody. And that's complicated. It's not always the easiest thing to do. It
Ooh,
upsets.
that's a good
No,
point.
sometimes you end up in arbitration if you don't fire correctly. I always found out like you need to put it in writing, a warning 3 times in writing to cover your backside.
See, but I think this is a way to weed out
Yeah.
those who aren't really into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those who, I really think it's a way to weed out
Mhm.
the weeds.
So,
you know?
it's, how a lot of times if something's not working, especially if your computer, your phone isn't working, you say,
That
turn
could
it
be
off.
interesting.
Sometimes the simplest thing, turn it off and turn it back on. I
Mhm.
kind of feel like that's what happened with the world with COVID,
Mm.
is that
But
we
no-
all unplugged and now
Yeah.
we're plugging back in. And I'm hoping, like my
better.
optimistic side is hoping that maybe going forward, like this has been a big reset, and that the virtual workplace and what is really important, and families that are reconnecting, I'm hoping that they're reconnecting in a way that they hadn't had a chance to before, is going to be a nice little reset for everybody.
I
You
hope so.
bring up a point here when you think, if you're going to work at home, what if you don't have a computer? Not everybody, it's hard to
How can
believe
you?
that.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
imagine.
Well,
internet,
remote
computer.
workers, we're
Some
talking about remote
people,
workers, and those are people who have those things. I mean,
yeah,
we're
but I
not
mean,
talking, yeah.
people who used to work in the office and then suddenly the office closes because of COVID and you're
Yeah.
working from home. What if you don't? What
Yeah.
if you need a photocopier? Well, okay,
Well,
you can
people,
get in your car and drive somewhere to get copies made.
no,
Right?
from what
Yeah.
I've read, that
Scanner.
most of the companies supplied that. And even if you
Mm.
needed to boost up your
Yeah.
internet, the companies paid for it. Just like they paid for it when
Mhm.
you're at work. They paid for those office supplies, and
Right.
the companies they have to pay for that unless you're a
Mm.
contractor. We need Ward, the employment attorney here, because now an independent contractor needs to supply their own things, because that's what they do as a contractor. As an employee, the employer has to pay for those things. And if
You-
the employer is not going to pay
Yeah.
for them, then you should quit.
I remember President Obama wanting to make the internet almost like a public utility, so every household would have access to the internet, mostly because he found that school children actually needed the internet.
Yeah.
Whether or not their parents needed it, school teachers were asking kids to do things that required the internet.
Yeah.
So, and
But
I-
then that
I
looks
think-
like, look at our bridges, just saying.
What?
I'm just saying that, look, so you got to be careful when it becomes like anyway, I'm not going to get into politics. I'm just saying, it's, anyway, I'm just saying it's all good. If it's a public utility, sometimes it doesn't work either.
Well, utilities are like gas, water, trash.
Yeah, but we don't have public utilities like that anymore. At
She-
all, I don't think.
I just remember a saying, like when you were talking, Lisa, I just thought of something that, because I came from a large family, so I'm the youngest of 5. And I remember, like, we'd start out and we'd all be laughing and everything, and my mother saying, it's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly it.
And it's always the younger one who gets hurt.
Yeah,
Gee.
it's the roughhousing, right? Too. It's like, here it
Yeah.
is. Don't do that. And the dad's always
Mhm.
like, get him. And then it's like the mother going, no, someone's gonna get hurt.
Oh.
And 5 minutes later, someone's crying. You
Yeah.
can hear that with little kids, like in gardens, and like you'll hear the kids playing, and you can tell it's gonna happen. And Nancy and I will be sitting outside somewhere,
Good.
wherever we
Like,
are, hearing that in a
here's a
neighborhood, right?
countdown.
We'll place bets on who's gonna cry when, and then here comes
Yeah.
the screech, the scream,
Yeah.
but you can trust it will happen.
Yes, it will happen.
But yeah, this is just such a fascinating thing about remote working, because it is that shift. And I think trust always comes up when there's change.
Yeah.
That is the big thing, right? And so with you, I know you've obviously got your books and workshops, and you've been doing speaking, going out and flying around doing that. Are you seeing a lot of that being because of the remote working, that trust is becoming, because we're still in shift, we're not there yet?
I think what I'm hearing from my friends who are going out is that everybody is really anxious to get back together again. So as much as everybody has enjoyed having a little bit of a break and doing the virtual workplaces, there is this, like the conferences that my friends are speaking at and the training sessions, people are saying, no, I don't want to do it virtually. I want to meet in person. I want to have that face-to-face communication. So with the virtual, if we want to do this long term, you have to build in the opportunities. And we talked about that at the beginning of this. Build in those opportunities to have a chance for people to meet. So if it's safe, and I don't think we're completely over COVID, but I think that we're getting through it. And I think people are kind of saying, I'll risk it. I've been vaccinated. If I get ill, hopefully I'm not going to end up in the hospital. So now people are saying, I need to get out and have those opportunities to meet with people. I need to have, if I'm working with Lisa and you and I haven't met yet, and I want to, like at some point, I want the opportunity to meet the two of you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the same in the virtual workplace. That if you're going to manage people, you have to have those opportunities where people can meet each other physically.
Well,
I
know
there's
that
a
a lot
happy
of
medium here.
I
think it'll take some work, but a happy medium where you're working from home and every once in a while you all get together. I think that's doable.
It was a huge change for us when we were a print magazine, so we went from being The Blend in San Diego to being Southwest Blend print magazine. And it was going in newspapers. I was still running around in my pickup truck, delivering to visitor bureaus and things like that, restaurants. Things were getting shipped to, it was just like this whole operation. And I felt like a little manufacturing hub. Our garage was busy, but things would get shipped out from the printers into the newspapers, and they printed half of the newspapers in Vegas and all of that. But we had our website was kicking butt. And that's when Nancy said, we're at this age, we need to be a pioneer. And that's that. And we're getting too big for our printing britches because they actually couldn't do the best job anymore with how many copies and full color and all this stuff. So that was that was it. We were representing small communities that didn't get the spotlight. So there was that threshold of, it's not like we're going and getting clients that were the MGM or something. We were getting the smaller communities that really needed that. And for me, the sales and that relationship building had to be me on the ground, going in the stores, going in, meeting the Chamber of Commerce people, going to those chamber events, going. And then Nancy's like, no, we're going to be completely online. And I remember running around with a binder, showing people what the website looked like. Because even trying to set up my computer back in the days, you didn't have Wi-Fi everywhere. No. None of this, the phones, this is way back when. And so I had a folder, I'd print out pages, show people. I know I'm feeling ancient now, but this is what had happened. And then it got slowly where it was virtual. And that's how we ended up becoming Big Blend, is doing the radio and being online completely. And suddenly I wasn't running out there anymore. And I was exhausted, and Nancy knew. I was running around in the desert from like 3, 4 in the morning on a drive till coming home days later, totally on the, it burned me out a little bit.
It was crazy.
But I had to go in to meet everybody. That's just how it was done. And you go into a store and you needed to wait until you had this little moment to talk with your client or prospective client. And you are down here, and if there's one customer, you need to shut up and walk out or whatever. But if I did a photo shoot of their products, they made sales. People bought whatever we were photographing. So people wanted me to go. But anyway, so this is just our company grew by us not doing that anymore. Yet at the same time, we're still in that zone of promoting these smaller businesses because they need it. There's no one there really doing that. Then Facebook comes in and everything changes. You can make that, but look at us now. We're on the road 100%. So if that tells you anything, you can't just be remote in your office. We couldn't just keep doing interviews without meeting and seeing what, when we were doing all the national park things, we were hitting our head on the wall, literally getting pissed. And here's all these situations. Well, I want to see it for myself. Are there really maintenance backlogs? Oh, hell yes. They would always say, please go photograph if there's, tape showing you can't go here or whatever, bathrooms closed. And in national park, it's all over the place. So we could start seeing it for ourselves and then really do a better job at communicating. And you can't communicate and live in a box in your house. You can't do it. You cannot do it. There's people that are forced to doing that, physically, but if you don't have to, don't, because it's not the same as meeting people. It is not the same. It is not, but you can find that balance. And I think that is the key. And trust
Mhm.
is what builds that balance,
Yeah.
to be able to have that yin and yang.
So how do you two feel that, like, what is the number one thing that you feel builds trust when you're dealing with people you're meeting for the first time?
Don't be full of it. Be polite, I've got a wonderful sailor's mouth. Sorry, but it is my sign of intelligence. But
Oh, well,
so I
okay.
don't need to pull that out at the first meeting. But you just don't be full of it. Just be honest. It's just have some integrity. That
So
to
be
me is it.
authentic. I'm hearing a lot of authenticity, like just
Yeah,
be
yeah.
yourself. Don't try and be something you're not.
And I
Right.
think COVID helped people get to the real stuff. And I think
And-
before that, people were, it's like, keep putting perfume on to cover up a stink, go to the doctor.
What is it? Lipstick on a pig?
Yeah, lipstick.
Yes.
That has been
I
my
think
saying for the
I-
last few days. That's
I
so funny you
know.
just said that.
It's poor
Yeah.
pigs. There's so many pigs running
I
around
love
with
pigs.
lipstick on. No, I think that if you say you're going to do something, that you do it. You
Yeah.
made a
A
commitment.
big trust tenet.
It's
Do
a
what you say you'll
huge,
do.
huge one. If you made a commitment, you honor it.
And if
Because
you
Right.
can't for some reason, because there
you better
can
be
be
upfront.
situations, you better let someone know and communicate.
Yeah. So do what
You
you
know?
say you'll do. And if you can't, then you circle back and let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you better
Immediately.
circle
Trust
back
rules, yeah.
real fast. You circle
Mhm.
back real fast, and you
Yeah.
better not be lying.
Oh, it'll catch up on you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a thing. Lying is
Yeah.
really, that to me is,
Yeah.
other than cruelty to animals and people, like cruelty and violence.
Yeah.
The lying thing to me is the same as
That's
thievery. There's no difference.
Yeah.
Stealing and
It's the
lying are
same
the
thing.
same.
Yeah.
And
You
don't
know,
cover up. Be authentic. Yeah.
that shows up. And when I talk about lying, it's consistency, because what you say and what you do are at odds. So if you
Mhm.
say you're going to do this and then you don't do it, or you do something completely the opposite,
Mm.
that's inconsistent, and it's called lying. So a lot of times if some of it you can, and you know when it's true, like someone doesn't mean it. And here's the example I'll use. Someone doesn't intentionally lie. They say, no, I have got a beautiful voice. I'm meant for the stage. And then you hear them sing and you think, oh,
Not me.
sweetheart. Yeah.
That just might be bad hearing.
Yeah. So like there's a difference between someone being delusional
Yes.
and someone outright lying. Lying is intentional. And
Right.
so that's a lot of times when I talk about lying,
Mm.
if it's intentional, if someone knows it not to be true and they say it anyways,
Yeah.
if someone knows that they can't fulfill, like they say they're going to do something and they know that
can't
it's
do
not
it.
possible, and they say it anyways, that's intentional. So when it's intentional like that, then that I think is a big trust destroyer.
It's mean. It's actually mean
Mhm.
because you're saying
Well,
that you don't trust the person you're communicating with
Well, it
to
doesn't
handle
end
whatever the
well.
truth is.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also
Mm.
fear. So when we look at remote working, so say you have, okay, I need to get this project done. Now, if the leadership says this project needs to be done by this time, I need this.
Yeah.
Okay. So you at home go, ooh, I could do this, this, this. Let me make sure I get the garbage out at this time. I don't know, whatever it is, the kids need to do this, whatever it is. So you can work it around your schedule. You're fine. But if they do this thing, like you said at the beginning, clock in at this time and all of that, now they're actually setting you up to lie in a way of not what that micromanaging takes away the flexibility to do what you need to do to get it done.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that was where a lie can come in out of fear. Like say all of a sudden your family flies in as a surprise because it's your birthday that weekend, but you know you have this report done, and maybe your husband says, hey, we're going to go have dinner here, we're going to celebrate your birthday, but we'll keep it low key because we know you have this to be done and this is important for promotion. Cool. While your family shows up, hey, we're here, surprise, we're here for the weekend, and you go, oh shit, excuse me, I'm being honest. I just every show now we have to be stupid like that, you know, I do. But so they show up and then you're like, oh my God. Now you could sit there, handle that and say, listen, you're my family. I need you to understand we're going to have a good time, but I need to at this time go upstairs and do this report. You can make it through. But if your company decided this is when you need to clock in and you can't because now you have your family here, what are you going to do? Are you going to lie about when you did the report? You still may go upstairs at a certain time when everybody's calmed down and go, you know, watching TV or whatever, or gone out to the movies. You can go out and get it done, but it may not be the time your company expected you to do it on. See what I mean?
Right.
That over control thing breeds shenanigans. Same thing going back to school. I mean, we need discipline, absolutely need discipline in growing up so we understand rules and why and have boundaries and can set our own disciplines. But overdoing it on your employees will create lies.
And from an employer, if you're an employer and you don't accept mistakes and use them as learning opportunities, then you're going to have people who are going to start lying to you, because if you come down hard on them every time a mistake is made, then eventually they learn, well, I better not tell them about the mistake. And there was another leader that we were talking to, and he managed $1 billion company. So it was this huge corporation. And he said that when they were building these, and they'd be building these multi-million-dollar casinos, if someone made a mistake and they told him when it was made, they could throw a bunch of services and money and people at it and fix it. But if they hit it, and they found out about it 6 months later, then that small problem that might have cost $1,000 now had escalated. And then it was a bigger problem. So he would self-disclose when he made mistakes. So people knew that it was okay to come to him if they made a mistake. So it's one of those things. If you're managing an employee, whether it's virtual or in person, then you need to let them know that it's okay to make mistakes and come to you when they do.
We're
Here's the
human.
caveat: if they're making mistakes over and over and over again, or they're making the same mistakes, you've got the wrong person in the position.
Exactly. So the lady or the person who has the surprise pop-in family, there's nothing compared to your $1 billion, you know, casino deals. But you know, this is something that could really happen. You're right, to a remote worker. And when we go back to that communication, the other tenet of trust, if you don't have those personal communications, my kid has COVID, someone showed up, these things are happening. Just like anything could happen in an office place. Somebody comes in and starts talking, you know what I mean? It could happen in certain ways in an office area, but if that happens and you don't communicate, if you don't have that open communication with your team and your leadership, you should be able to say, oh crap, this happened. You know, I'm going to get this. I changed it. I was being politer now. But I'm going to get this done no matter what, because you made a commitment to do it. I think you should be able to have that communication. But if you're having family over every weekend doing that, or every work week, that's not a good thing. Like you're saying, like you can't always let your personal take over your business.
No, you
but
can't.
I'm saying that's like an exception to the rule.
But
And I
this-
see
but
that could totally happen to someone.
That's why usually people like to go to the office to go to work, and the employer wants you to go to the office to go to work, and they're paying rent on the office building just to make sure they really have a staff. Because the trust isn't there that you'll do your job if you're at home.
Free of pop-ins.
So now when you look at it, depending on who your employees are, it's very interesting, because some employees need more kind of monitoring than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
In fact,
not always about age.
What I'll
It's
do is I'll
sometimes
send you so
about-
you can
yeah.
put it online for people, is the
Mhm.
different levels of managing people. So there are
Yeah.
some people that you need to tell them exactly what to do, and then they do it. There's other people that you give them guidelines and then
Mhm.
ask them where they are. There's other people where you can have a discussion. So there's all kinds of different levels of how to
Mhm.
manage people. It's in my book.
Mm.
I think it's in both books. It's
Mm.
that list of here's how you manage different people according to their level of competence.
Mm.
But I'll send it to you so that you can put it online.
I think that should be
Cool.
our next conversation.
Yeah.
Let's do that
Okay.
as our next chat. I
Yeah,
love that
because
idea.
it's-
Perfect.
I love that. Let's
But
do that.
It's interesting. One of Lisa's friends, a
Why
young
are you always
guy.
going back to what happened in
Um,
my school days? I
No,
mean, really.
no, you was older than school days. One of
Uh-oh,
her
this gets
friends
worse.
came to me and said, could you please hire this guy? He needs a job. He's young, he's nice. And I knew who he was. And I'm like, well, okay. But the young guy insisted that I hire his father. And I'm like, but I don't need it. I don't need 2 employees. And he goes, well, if you can't hire my father, then I can't work. So, and then I met his father. I'm like, oh, no way. I didn't like him. There was nothing about him I liked. In fact, I was like, ew. And eventually I hired them both, but with the stipulation, not if I fire the older dude. It was when I fire him, I'm firing you too. Are you sure you want this? And the young kid said yes. So I think it lasted 2 weeks and I fired them both.
Not even.
Not even, yeah, well, because the old guy was just, he was just.
Yeah, you were
so-
trying to help. Actually, was
It was
the
awful. It
younger
was horrible.
guy, and his dad needed a
Just-
job at that point. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a
his-
reason why. And
Yeah.
he's and we got for sales, but as he didn't
He was-
make one sale.
No, it wasn't only that. It was
His
every
attitude.
single thing he was supposed to do. He argued, questioned. Well, don't you think it would be better this way?
Because he is an
And
old
I was
white
like,
man over a
yeah,
woman. See, that's
yeah.
what he.
And I was
Here
just
we
like,
go.
I was like, if I thought it would be better that way, I would have done it because I already thought about it. So this is the way you do it. If you can't, bye-bye.
Yeah.
And then eventually it was bye-bye.
See, there was no
And I-
trust in
and-
the relationship from the
Yeah.
beginning. See,
And I felt
No trust.
bad. I felt bad firing the young guy, but I made it clear. And then I can't go back on my word. I said I would.
sometimes you have to
Yes.
learn that
Yeah.
you.
So,
I
but
mean,
that was
he-
sad.
he sadly trusted his father, and had
Or
to
he
learn.
was looking out for his father. It sounds like there's all kinds of
There was
codependency
all-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but when
all
I
sorts
mean,
of
if I was
stuff.
going to get a job, I wouldn't say you have to hire my mother too.
Well, it's not a
Number
good
one,
way to
Nancy
get
would
a
tell me
job.
where to go about trying to pick out where she should work.
No kidding. Really?
But listen, Lee, always a pleasure
Mm.
having you on the show. Let's do the management styles next.
Yeah.
That would be such a good
Okay, that sounds
conversation.
great. So I'm not
I
going to
like
have
it.
it to give you for this one. You'll have to,
Next
for
one.
everyone listening, you'll have to watch the next show
Right.
and you'll get that list.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
Cool.
love it. So everyone, the trustarchitect.biz is the website to go to connect with Lee. She's here every third Thursday. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. Thanks so much, Lee. Enjoy summer in
you.
Savannah. Don't melt.
Yeah, no, gonna go have it. Now I'm off for the rest of the weekend. So
Nice.
it's all good.
Cool.
Okay.